Today, I'm gonna give you guys some really important photography tips to get great photos of your Christmas lights. Now, I recognize that not everybody celebrates Christmas, and if you don't, I'm sorry that this video isn't for you as much, but I do celebrate Christmas and I really love it. I love the lights and the festivities especially, and so these are gonna be some tips that I have picked up over the years to get really nice photos of my Christmas tree. I think that this is an excellent lens. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma and professionally I'm a software developer, but in my free time I love landscape photography and making related videos here on YouTube. Today I have a very different kind of video that I'm really excited to give a try and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And that is, I'm going to tell you how to get some really great holiday photos of Christmas lights, your Christmas tree in your house or outdoors or whatever that might be. So this would definitely apply to like an indoor Christmas tree for those of you who celebrate Christmas. But I decided to set up this little tree in front of the wood pile here just because I thought it might make for some nice shots. So I'm outside in the dark, in the cold, and so hopefully you can see and hear me okay, because that's definitely not the kind of filming that I typically do. Normally I'm either indoors with some lights set up or I'm outside in the daytime. But hopefully this will be really fun. So the first thing that I need to do, because obviously it is very dark out here, is I'm going to want to set up my tripod in order to get some good steady shots in the dark. There are a few things that you can do in your actual setup as well to make your pictures look nice. So arrange your scene a little bit, clean up if you're got a little bit of a mess around the house. I typically do clean up a little bit, and then you can put something in the scene. So a package, I put this little nutcracker here just to add a little bit interest at the bottom of the tree, and then you can add some lighting around the tree if you want as well. So I'm in front of this wood pile here and I just used some spare Christmas lights, but you could also use some kind of battery operated or plug-in light to add a little bit of lighting as a fill around the scene. So in my case, that's just giving me this glow behind the tree, lighting up those logs as the background. Alright, so now I've got my tripod set up. I've set it up at kind of a low angle here because I want to be straight on to my tree. So for a bigger tree, you might put it higher. A straight on angle makes the tree look a little bit more symmetrical and tree shaped, where if you're using a wide lens, as you're often going to be indoors, and I've kind of simulated by putting the camera close up with my wide lens here, if you are at a kind of high or low angle to the tree, it might start to have a little bit of weird perspective warping on it. So you want to be nice and straight onto the tree. Now I'm going to show you some camera settings that you can use to make those photos look really nice. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my aperture on the camera very low. So f22 I think is the lowest I can go with this lens. So a nice tight aperture, and that's going to give some nice kind of starring in the Christmas lights really naturally without having to use a star filter or anything like that. Now obviously that's going to make your background of the photo a lot sharper, but if you don't have a star filter, you don't need to buy one to get that kind of nice star effect from those Christmas lights. You can just tighten the aperture down, and typically your lens is just going to end up with some starring anyways. Then from there I'm going to adjust for a shutter speed speed to match. And so I'm using the manual settings on the camera right now. So I've set up a tight aperture, and then I'm going to go for a really long shutter speed. That's why this tripod is going to be so important. So use a long shutter speed so that we get a nice bright photo of our tree. You don't want to go too long, and you might have to adjust it a little bit longer and shorter, because if you go too long, your lights will start to look white eventually, because they're going to be blown out highlight in your photo. So don't go too long, but get a good colored but bright enough exposure. And that's just going to be a matter of playing around depending on your lighting. The other thing that I'm going to do is set it on a manual ISO and keep that nice and low. I don't want to be using my ISO to make my shutter speed shorter. That's why I have the tripod here. And if you're taking photos in the dark, your camera naturally is going to want to just crank that ISO way up, and then you're going to end up with a noisy photo. So make sure you turn that auto ISO off and turn your ISO back down. The final thing is to put it on a 2-second timer. Now this is optional, and it doesn't have to be 2 seconds. That's typically the lowest timer length. But put it on a 2-second timer, because if you are taking a photo that's on a long exposure, you push the shutter button, you're jiggling that tripod around a little bit, and by having a 2-second timer, you can take your hands off, and then the tripod will be steady before your camera takes the shot. It's just one extra step in there to make sure that it's steady, because, you know, if I'm taking a 30-second exposure, I don't want to wait 30 seconds and then find out, oops, I blurred it, right? So that's one more thing you can do to make sure you get a nice sharp photo. And then I'm just using the autofocus. You don't normally need manual focus on something like Christmas tree, because it's lit up so your camera can see it just fine to take the shot. Alright, now that I have everything set up, it's just time to take these shots. So I put my aperture at f/29, which is as tight as I can get right now with this lens. And that's hopefully going to give me that nice starring on my Christmas lights. I turn the ISO down to 200. That's not the lowest it can go, but it's pretty low for this camera. And then I'm going to set my shutter speed to match all of those things. I have an advantage where I'm using a mirrorless camera, that as I turn my shutter speed up, I'm going to get an indication on the screen of what that's going to look like. And so I'm just going to start out trying a 30-second shutter speed with the 2-second timer here. It's going to wait a couple seconds, and then it's going to snap that photo for me. One thing that concerns me about these outdoor shots is I can tell that the wind is moving around some of my ornaments and ribbons a little bit, so I'm thinking I might get a little bit of blurring in them using this long shutter speed. However, here's our first shot, and I think it's looking pretty darn good. It looks a little bit bright on the video. I can't really get it dim enough. I will probably make a few adjustments here just in terms of composition, take a few shots to make sure I get a good sharp one and all of that. That's just kind of normal trial and error that you might do on any photo shoot. But those are really going to be the main settings that you are going to want to remember. Is use a nice tight aperture to make your Christmas lights look nice. Use a low ISO so you don't get any noise, and use a really long exposure to match those things. And then of course steady your camera on a tripod, or sit it on a table or something like that if you don't have a tripod available. It doesn't have to be a tripod necessarily. So hopefully you guys will find those tips to be helpful in your photography throughout this Christmas season. If you just have some lovely lights that you've set up or that you find somewhere or whatever, and you want to get some really cool looking photographs of them. So that is going to be all for this video, but if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit the like button on your way out and to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss more videos that I'm really excited to share with you in the future. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.